Hey boys and girls, hopefully your Wednesday has been going well. I really miss that we won't be able to see each other in person tonight at Awana. But I wanted to go ahead and talk to you for a little bit about a Bible lesson because it's Wednesday, and why wouldn't we talk about the Bible? Before we do a lesson, I did want to talk to you just for a second about Awana. Now, if you have any questions, you can always have your mom or dad call me, email me, text me. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. I do want you to know that as soon as we're able to have Wednesday nights again, we will start back with Awana. I'm not exactly sure what date that'll be yet. It'll definitely be in May. So I'll give you more details closer to when we start meeting about what exactly our Awana lessons will look like and how Awana will wrap up for the school year. But don't worry, we'll have our summer celebration where you get to throw a big pie in my face. Now, as far as your handbooks are concerned, I don't have a way to keep track of the verses that you're saying week by week like we normally do. And as you say verses, I don't have a way to get things like chevrons or jewels to you. But what we can do is if you want to say verses from your handbook to your mom and your dad, they can sign off in your handbook for you. And when you come back to Awana, if you show us your handbook, we can look through your handbook and see where you are and do our best to get you things like a pair of wings, or if you finish a book, to get you the trophy or the plaque or the ribbon that goes with that book. I definitely want to give you that option. Now, as we think about a Bible lesson, I want you to think about some food. I have here a piece of candy, some Starbursts, because candy reminds me of being a kid when I was your age. I loved candy. Well, honestly, I still do love candy. But did you know that I have two little sisters? You probably do. And my little sisters, they love candy too. Now, when I was little, and still living at home with my two little sisters, we would eat candy all the time. And sometimes we would have to hide candy from each other. Because what we would do is we would go and we would eat candy that belonged to the other person because we thought that it looked yummy or tasted good. Now, I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound kind, does it? It's not really kind to eat the candy that belongs to someone else. But when you see a delicious Starburst sitting there, isn't it pretty tempting to think, ooh, that looks good? Yeah, it is, isn't it? But pieces of candy like this help us think about how we should treat one another. Instead of eating candy that doesn't belong to us, we should respect other people and be kind by not taking their candy, shouldn't we? The nice and right thing to do is to be kind to one another. And being kind to one another, whether it's respecting that candy belongs to someone else or any other way that we can be kind to one another, is what I want to talk to us about tonight. Right now, we're spending a lot more time at home with our family and our siblings than we might normally. And because of that, it's extra important to be kind to one another. Now, it's always important to be kind to one another, but as we spend so much time at home, it is maybe easy to feel a little bit more annoyed or frustrated by something that people do. And it's something that we have to think about every day of how can I be kind to the people around me? Well, God's word, the Bible, teaches us about kindness. Ephesians 4:32 is a verse that you and I talk a lot about when we're here at Awana. It says, "Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving one another, just as God also forgave you in Christ." When we're here, we often remind each other about kindness by saying, "Be kind to one another." Now, kindness is great, and you and I should treat each other with kindness. But I think it's important that we remember the reason for kindness. You see, boys and girls, I want you to treat your family with kindness this week while you're at home. But I want you to do that because God has been kind to you. Kindness isn't about being kind just so that you can be a good boy or a good girl. Kindness is something that we should practice to one another because God has first been kind to you and me. Remember, boys and girls, God is the creator and the king of this universe. He made the whole world so good. He made the grass and the sunshine and everything that we see. He made it all good. And he let us live here. Now, in all of our hearts, we've disobeyed. We've said, I'm going to do things my way. And we've broken our relationship with God, what the Bible calls sin. And our disobedience separates us from him. Well, and that's a big problem for a lot of reasons, right? The biggest one, or one of the biggest ones at least, is that because God is perfect and good, he has life. And if we're separated from him, we're apart from his life and his goodness. Now, he is perfect. He's holy. Not, I've got cuts in my jeans, or I'm a piece of Swiss cheese, but he's perfect. And because he's perfect and he's holy, he can't be around us when we're disobedient to him, which is a huge problem. And he is so holy that our sin keeps us away from him. But you know that he's also so good and so full of love that his holiness and his love happen at the same time. And he made it possible for us to be forgiven of our disobedience. God the Father sent God the Son, Jesus, to this earth. He lived a perfect life. He never disobeyed. He died on the cross. Now, you and I deserve to die for our sin, but Jesus, he didn't deserve to die. He never disobeyed. Yet he died in our place, and he came back to life just 3 days later, so that all of us can have the chance to be forgiven if we turn away from our sin and turn to trusting in Jesus. Now, boys and girls, God, who's perfect, has been kind to us by making it possible for us to be forgiven. He died and came back to life just so that we could be forgiven. Now, I want you to think about that. The creator of the universe has been so kind to us. And that is the reason that we can be kind to one another. When we understand that God has made it possible for us to be forgiven of our disobedience, that through Jesus we can have a good relationship with him forever and ever in eternity. And that starts right now. When we understand that kindness from God, we can be kind to one another. And remember, kindness follows God's example. Our verse says that we should forgive other people the way God forgives us through Jesus. When we think about being kind, kindness really just means following God's example of loving other people, putting their needs before our own. Kindness really is the opposite of being selfish. Instead of thinking about me first, we should think about God and other people first. That's what kindness is all about. So this week, I want you to think about being kind. How can you, first and foremost, trust in Jesus? Ask him to forgive you of your sin. If you haven't trusted in him yet, today is the day to do that. But remember, trusting in Jesus is something you do every single day, not just one time. We trust in Jesus for our whole life. And we can be kind by first loving God and trusting him, and then thinking about other people before we think about ourselves. So maybe we have a piece of candy and we can share with our siblings. There's lots of different ways we can be kind. Here at Hayes Hills, we have kindness, and we say be kind. And how do we do that? Well, we say no hurts. This is our sign for no hurts. And it means that we are kind with our words and our hands. So this week, you can use kind words to encourage other people. Or you can use your hands kindly. Instead of shoving your siblings because you're frustrated with them, you can use your hands to help them with a project. We're also kind by sticking together. Here's our sign for sticking together. All of our fingers stuck together. We're kind to our friends, our family, and our belongings. This week, instead of taking toys that our siblings are playing with, we can share with them, and we can respect other people's property. That's kind. And the other way that we can show kindness to one another, we've got no hurts, sticking together, and we can have fun. We can have kind play. We're playing lots of games and doing lots of activities while we're at home. And instead of being selfish or cheating to win a board game, we can help other people, maybe even help them win. We can help them do craft projects. We can help them in all kinds of ways and play games by the rules. And in that kindness, we can get along with other people better. So I want to challenge you this week. When you're at home, how can you be kind to one another? What are ways that you can follow God's example and be selfless instead of selfish? Instead of thinking about me first, how can you think about your family and other people first? How can you be kind? But remember, kindness comes after we understand what God has done for us. We could never be kind enough to make God love us. God is so good that he loves us. He makes it possible for us to be forgiven as a gift. And because of who God is, and because Jesus died and came back to life for us, we can be forgiven of our disobedience if we trust in Jesus. And it's because of what God has done for us that we can be kind to our family. So this week, be kind to one another. No hurts, stick together, have fun. A little dance party with our fingers is the sign for have fun. How can you be kind? After this video is over, families, have a discussion. What are ways that you can show each other kindness? On our website at hayeshills.com, you can go to the elementary or preschool page, and there's a picture. It'll be on this video here as soon as I'm done talking, where I break down Ephesians 4:32 and give great examples of kindness to one another. Post that in your house. Show that to everyone this week, and use that as a way to talk about kindness to one another. Another way you can practice is by role-playing. So you can say, okay, we're going to sit down and we're going to practice how to share. We've got an Xbox controller, and we're going to practice an unkind way of playing Xbox, which would be selfish and not giving someone else a turn. And then we can practice a kind way of playing Xbox by using respectful words to ask for a turn, and then by selflessly giving our brother and sister a turn. There are a lot of different role plays you can come up with, but spend time this week practicing unkind and then kind ways that you can interact with each other. It's important to look at every situation in our life and say, here's the unkind way and here's the kind way. And when we get to a spot where we have to pick, which one am I going to do? We know what's unkind, but we also know what's kind, and we know how we can follow God. And we know how we can be kind to one another. Let's practice kindness. As we're at home a lot over the next few days and weeks, kindness is going to be even more important. Let's be kind to one another because God has first and foremost been kind to us through Jesus.